Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and today I have a few projects that are made out of wood, and I am starting with this scrap white piece of wood that I had in my garage, and I wanted to just do a few little winter scenes, so I am just going to give this a fresh coat of paint because it is a little worse for wear, and then once I have that fully coated, I'm going to use my stencil, and I'm just going to use a couple different stencils with different tree sizes and shapes so that I can just get a background feeling of a forest. And all I've taken here is some different green and a little paint brush, pouncing darker on the outside edges, lighter toward the center, and then I am going around and adding a little bit of white here and there to lighten that up. Create a little bit of shadowing here by having the deeper colors on the tips of the trees and leaving a little bit of white space because I think that that definitely matters. Now, once I have that dried, then I am just going to take a little thin brush and a little bit of brown and add some tree trunks to that and kind of give a blue-white feeling to the base of this for some snowy background on the bottom. I don't want white snow on a white background, so having a little bit of a blue tone in that helps you, or even a green tone. I just took a little feather brush and some dark wax and just sort of lightly went around the outside edge to give that a little bit of definition. And then I'm going to use these little transfers I had gotten, I think last year, I believe on Amazon, and they're very shiny and sometimes pull up the paint, so you have to be very careful. And then just sanded some of the shine down. And I know you can also spray coat with a matte finish, and that takes some of that shine down as well. And then I just put a couple of different owls on the branches in some of these trees. If you're looking for just a pop of winter, and do you want to put something on a tier tray or just in a display that you have? Just maybe you took off a Christmas item and you're looking for a place to fill it for a couple of months before spring. This is a very simple and easy way to add a touch of winter to your home. And before I go on, let me tell you about today's collaboration, What Would You Make?, hosted by Brenda. And she and Christine host this every month, and their guest host is Loli D, and their channels as well as a playlist of all the other creators will be in my description box as usual. Now, I am moving on to one of those scrap wood pieces that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot for flooring. I had picked up a couple quite some time ago when we were doing a floor in my son's condo, and so I had a couple of these just hanging around in my scrap pile. Now and again, you just have a piece and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. So here's an idea. It's free. Why not? Put a couple of trees on that, and then the way my trees sort of looked, they seemed to me to be sort of on a hill, so I opted to just go ahead and fill in with some white paint the base of that to make it look snowy on the bottom. A little bit of a winter scene here as well. Now, while I have some white on my brush, I opted to go ahead and pounce some snow, so to speak, on the outside edges just to kind of give some highlights and a little bit of a snowy look. Nothing too crazy here, and just kind of fill in here and there, just sort of keep it real light-handed. And I like to also add a little bit of snow coming in the sky, and then I opted later on to remove that and do something different because I don't really care for the way that the snow looks with this particular brush. And because there were some cut ends, I just took some antiquing wax and a paper towel and just darkened up those cut ends to keep everything in the same color tone. Now, in that same pack of transfers, I did have a few other woodland creatures, so I wanted to take this buck and put it right here in the little stand of trees to give this a winter feel. And then I decided that this is the one I think I decided instead of trying to peel it off as it was picking up the paint, I would just sand down some of the shine. And then if you spray that with the clear coat, you won't even know it's a sticker type transfer. Right here, it's a little shiny. But once I spray coat that, it'll go away. Now, I want to put a clear wax over this whole piece since some of this is chalk paint, and I want to seal that in. But I also want to go heavy on the area that looks like the background snow and sort of remove that, because I just decided that I just didn't like the way that that looked. Although it will give this kind of that hazy feeling in the background, that actually is going to be okay with me, because I am then going to just take the backside, the pointed side of my wooden paintbrush handle, and I'm going to just put dots of snow, which I think looks better. Especially when you do various sizes. I think that looks a little bit more realistic, and that is as simple as it could be. You could add a hanger if you want to put it on the wall. You could add a bow. You could add some pine cones and greens. I'll put this on a tiered tray or something. I opted to leave it as is and just prop it up on my mantle. Now that takes me on to item number 3. This angel that I got on the good table at my dump, it is something. It has so much of this moss and berries on it, I just can't even. So I started by removing all of that, and then taking my heat gun and getting all of the glue off, which what was left over. And then once that was done, I asked my husband to take the halo effect off of around her head to begin with. So he was kind enough to cut that with the skill saw or scroll saw for me. And then once that was done, I had to clean her up really good. And then I went ahead and just gave her 2 solid coats of white chalk paint, one because I'm covering over red with gold flecks, and also because I did want to have a nice good finish on this. And then once I get these 2 coats fully painted and she is dry, I am going to want to sand back all of the detail. There's quite a bit of detail on her dress and wings and such. And if I can find my rub and buff, I may very well put some gold rub and buff on her. I don't know what it is about that tube of rub and buff, but that is the one thing I continuously lose. This is the kind of item you can thrift for $1 or $2. You can absolutely find anywhere, and really most people would just pass it by. But what a difference it is already making, just changing it from that color to this. Now I decided to go ahead and sand back to distress primarily around the edges and bring some of that burgundy back. Now, obviously, if this does not fit with the color scheme, you would want to either use an ink pad or a marker or a paintbrush and use a different color, or you could use some gold rub and buffer. But I decided, actually, since I have a fair amount of burgundy in a primitive country spot of my home, that I would actually just go ahead and distress back to the burgundy. Not to mention I still have to find my rub and buff. So I am going to cover her entirely with 1 coat of a clear wax, because I am using a chalk paint here, and that will protect that. And then also it will help me when I distress with the dark wax to pull some of that back, because just distressing with dark wax can be pretty dark. So once I have that finished, and then I'm just going to basically highlight the places that I sanded and make that look a little more vintage. Obviously, if that's not your look, you would skip this step. Then I am going to rub that all completely back, a little bit wiping some of that back with a cloth. And now there are a number of things that I could do here. I could leave it certainly, but you know me, if you have been following me for any length of time, I love to add some fiber hair to these things, such as the dolls that I have done and the angels that I have done this year. And so I am going to take a bit of that brown roving that I have, and I am going to just go ahead and put some braids on her, and that will definitely soften the wood and definitely give this more of the look that I like. And after I get those braids finished, I am just going to go ahead and glue those on, framing her face and kind of getting rid of that halo effect. And then I'm going to cut a little bit more of the fiber and put some on the top of her head to give her a bit more hair from the sides. And that was pretty much all I was thinking. If it were Christmas, I would have her hold a scroll, Glory in the Highest, or, you know, something like that. But since I am trying to make this a little bit more year-round, I guess, since Christmas is just about over, I will leave that very simple. But the fact is, I could put a bird's nest with a bird in her hand. I could put any kind of Christmas stuff, so I can change this out. But for now, I'm just going to use a heart that I had in my stash from something else and put that right on that part of her chest that I never really loved in the beginning. So this is what she looked like. Let's remember this. Absolutely the epitome of the words, a hot mess. And this is what she looks like now. So I would love to know what you think about today's projects. I have to say for certain she is my favorite, but I would love to know what your favorite is. And what kinds of things would you put in her hands? Now, on to item number 4. Someone left a whole box of these on the good table at the dump. I do not know their intended use, but I decided that I am going to make a riser. So I started by attaching some wine corks to the bottom with both hot glue and wood glue. I didn't have enough spools, and I had found a big bag of these corks once upon a time, so this is a great option. And very inexpensive, especially if they're free to you like they were free to me. And then I am desperate for spring. I know it's still not even Christmas here or Christmas time when you're watching this, but I love this napkin, and I decided, you know what, my bedroom has a lot of this blue and birds and spring feel to it, so I don't care that it is December. I am going to use this pretty spring napkin. So I tore out the section that I wanted to use, and since it already has a very pale background there, that wood, that I thought I could just directly Mod Podge that right on top without having to paint this box. I like the wood tone. So I just Mod Podged that directly on and then let that dry, and then sanded the edges smooth on that, and then I put a coat of Mod Podge over the top of it to seal it in. Once I was finished with that, I took the Tim Holtz Distress ink in walnut and just went around the outside edges of that to give that a little bit of dimension and bring out some of the brown that is in the bird's nest. And then I went on to the other areas of the corners and the bottom a little bit, and then a little bit on the corks, just to sort of give this a little bit of a vintage distress look. And honestly, that is all I wanted to do to it. I absolutely love this, just the way that it is for my bedroom, and to just remind me that spring will come again. And so I would love to know what you thought about these wooden items. Which was your favorite, and have I inspired you to do anything like this? There's a link to another video at the end of this video that I think that you will enjoy. And also don't forget to check out the playlist, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for stopping by. Take care.